All right, Chapter 8, Lesson 30 is going to be on hypothesis testing. So actually, all of Chapter 8 is hypothesis testing. What we're gonna do in this lesson is do the setup work for it, and then the following lessons after that will go through how to actually do the test. So what we're gonna do today is set up null and alternative hypotheses. So essentially, what you do is you have two different things on here. The null hypothesis is going to be this is equal to it's just this. And then the alternative hypothesis is it's not this, it's something else. So we're testing whether it is or is not whatever the statement happens to be. For instance, do seatbelts save lives? Does this particular medicine lower your cholesterol? So this would be it your cholesterol stays the same or your cholesterol is lowered. This one would be seatbelts save lives or don't save lives. So again, what we're going to set up are these two pieces right here. Is the null hypothesis is going to be first. So the symbol for null hypothesis is going to be H sub 0. So again, this is that there is no difference, meaning that this is going to be equal to. So when we set up the null hypothesis, it's going to be something, and it's the two things that we're going to deal with would be mean and proportion. So the mean is going to equal some number would be the null hypothesis, or the proportion is going to equal some number. Okay, so the null hypothesis always has that it's equal to whatever it is you're analyzing. And then the alternative hypothesis is going to be it's not that. It's going to either be less than that or greater than that or just plain old not equal to. So it will look like, first of all, that's H sub A is the symbol for alternative hypothesis. So the mean is going to not equal that number, or the mean is going to be greater than that number, or something along those lines. So to set this up, null hypothesis is always equal to an alternative hypothesis is either less than, greater than, or not equal to. So let me show you what I mean here. So Joe claims to be an 80% free throw shooter. One day, Joseph shoots 50 free throws and he makes 32. Is he correct? No. 32 out of 50 is not 80%. So you can say, based on this one time that he shot a group of free throws, he is not an 80% free throw shooter. But, maybe he had a bad day. That's 64%, by the way. Maybe he had a bad day. Maybe he's actually not an 80% free throw shooter. That's what we're trying to establish. Now, in later sections, we're going to determine whether that is true or false based on this. But for today, we're just, again, setting up the hypotheses. So the hypotheses would be he is an 80% free throw shooter. So he makes 0.8 or 80%. So you're going to write this as a decimal. So H sub 0 will be P is equal to 0.8, or he's not an 80% free throw shooter. So P is not equal to 0.8 would be the alternative hypotheses. Okay, and again, that's all you're doing for this section is setting up the actual hypotheses. All right, potato chip producer has just received a new shipment of potatoes from their supplier. If the producer determines the mean number of potatoes with blemishes is more than 6 of the potatoes per crate in the shipment have blemishes, the truck will be sent back. In the sample of 200 of the crates of potatoes in the shipment, there is a mean of 6.2 potatoes with blemishes per crate. So what should the producer conclude? Okay, so we're analyzing whether it's 6 or more than 6 is what we're doing. So this would be a mean question. The last one was a proportion question. So our null hypothesis would be the mean is equal to 6, and the alternative would be is it's greater than 6. And again, what we'll do is we'll run the test through the calculator and determine whether we find this one to be true or not. Okay. And to do that, we're going to use something that is called a p-value, which is what we're going to be doing in the next section, but I'll just bring it up here very quickly. So you determine a probability value, is what and there's formulas for doing that, and we're going to have the calculator to do that. So you're going to be given a level of significance. This is kind of like an error is what that would be. So typically the error is going to be about 5%. And we're looking for values that are less than that in order to conclude that the alternative hypothesis is true. So what we do with this is we take this p-value and we compare it to some given alpha value, which is going to be, again, our level of significance or our error. And if the p-value is less than that, then we're going to reject the null, which means then I'm concluding that this should be true. And then when the p-value is greater than that, then there's not enough information for that, so I'm going to fail to reject that, which means I cannot conclude the alternative hypothesis. So this little chart, which is on your formula sheet, by the way, is what we'll be looking at here in the following sections. So I just wanted to bring it up here to be able to use that for the next sections. All right, so that is lesson 30. Let me know if you have any questions.